shine a light on some practices that are not wholesome and they're not fair. We're here to show our solidarity with one another for justice. And we're here to try to make sure that the type of thing that happened over in the library building doesn't happen again, and that the administration understands that we will not accept a cover-up. We know for a fact that a crime was committed. We know for a fact that the administration tried to change the definition of what a crime is. And they started by redefining the crime scene. Started by saying that it wasn't in a private office, that it was in a public area. They used terms like library commons. Just so you are, and everyone is aware, my office is in the same area where the incident occurred. Obviously, it was in proximity. There are 9 offices, 2 restrooms, and a conference room in that section of the library. There is no elevator. It's on the 4th floor, so to get there, you either intentionally go there or you're lost. Those are the only 2 choices. And so we know that a cover-up started with a redefinition, with some fiction of what it is. What I want to say to all of those who are here physically today, and for those who are joining us by live stream here with us in spirit, is that we're very thankful for your presence. We're thankful for your support. We do expect that things will ultimately change by our actions, and that's why we are taking these actions. We believe that actions will result in change. We feel that cowering and backing down and being afraid is not worthy of those who have gone before us. Those who have suffered far greater indignities than just being given a pink slip or fired. And I think we all know what we're talking about, physical violence. But in a way, the threats that have been made against me, against my termination, are a form of economic violence. And we're seeing a lot of economic violence in society today. And that's one of the things I do want to point out, and we should take note of and should be aware of, that a lot of communities are suffering from economic violence, from policies that deny them jobs, access to health care, access to good education, and all these things are having an impact. And at the same time, those who are in positions of authority, positions of power, don't seem to care. And because we're talking about racism, one of the things I wanted to just briefly point out, and I did mention in my last the last march, there is only one race, that's the human race. Right on. But considering the fact that these terminologies have been brought into the dialogue, into the conversation called race, what racism is a lack of care, a lack of concern about someone that doesn't look like you, that someone that doesn't have the privileges and the power of being in the majority race. And again, I put race in quotes because I don't believe in race. But it's this lack of caring that allowed individuals to enslave others, to mistreat others, to perpetrate genocide, to do all manner of brutality against human beings because they just didn't give a damn. Yeah. And what I've seen coming from the administration and Plum Hall is that attitude of not giving a damn. They haven't talked to me. They haven't talked to my wife. Dr. Vietti is talking about listening to all voices. I hope her window is open today so she can hear my voice, but I haven't heard her voice. So that's what we're talking about. Someone not giving a damn. And if someone gave a damn enough, they would have resolved this a long time ago. This is ridiculous, actually. One of the things that schools are doing, universities are doing for best practices in addressing racial bias, hate crimes, sexual crimes on campus is they have created systems which allows students and faculty to report these incidents anonymously, so that you don't have to be subjected to victimization. Because in this situation here, we're being vilified, but we're the victims. And there is no process here. The only process at ESU for reporting a hate crime is through an HR mechanism, which turns it into a quote-unquote personnel issue, so that when the administration talks to the press or talks to whoever, they can say, oh, that's a personnel issue. I made it a point when I first contacted the administration to let them know that I was not going to take this through their bogus process of HR and turn it into a personnel matter. But they still somehow managed to do that anyway. Because crime should be handled through criminal processes. That's why we went to the police department. But the police department was in cahoots with the administration, and they parroted the same words that they did: no crime occurred. Well, that's why we're now taking it to the judge. That's why I'm going to limit my comments today, because we have filed in federal court, and by November 9th, unless they beg for an extension, Emporia State University will have to start answering. And the beauty of taking things through the legal process is it's not just the court of public opinion. The judge and the jury become triers of fact. Yes. Okay? Triers of fact. And we have no problem whatsoever in delivering the facts to the judge and to the jury. And that is what we are looking forward to today. So I've given my opening remarks. I'd like to turn this over to a few other individuals who are going to say a few words here today before we march. And one of those will be our good friend and local resident here, Don Carter. We'll also be hearing from our special guest, and we'll give her an introduction when she comes up, Danielle Walker. We're going to hear some words from Caleb Steffens. We're also going to hear from a student, one of our students here, Jay. So, without further ado, I'd like to turn the mic over at this time to Don Carter.
Okay, I'm not used to talking into a mic, so I want to make sure that you guys can all hear me right now. Good?
Maybe a little bit closer.
A little bit closer.
Just for the sake of film.
What if I just talk like this?
Yes.
Is this better?
I like
this
that.
is better for me. I kind of have a loud, booming voice, so I wanted to talk with everyone about why I am here personally today. Okay? My words are not the words of the Hales. They may or may not agree with what I say 100%. They have not pre-approved what I'm about to say to you. They haven't looked over my notes and made sure that I didn't hurt anyone's feelings or do anything. These are my words, okay? I wanted to say that I grew up in Emporia, okay? I've experienced Emporia. I actually love the Emporia community. I love and support Emporia State University. Okay, I am also a student here. Okay, so I think a lot of people get confused about what this is all about. This is not a anti-Emporia or a anti-Emporia State thing that we're doing here. It is pro making Emporia State and Emporia a better situation for all. Okay? I just want to make sure that I get that out, that we are not anti-Emporia. Okay? I think we can get a lot more people involved if they realize that they're not marching against Emporia. They're not marching against Emporia State. We're marching, actually, if I had my shirt off, out of love. And love for all people. Okay? I do have to look at my notes. So, I see that's really it's really horrible to me is two people who have worked hard. Obviously, they have worked hard. They have degrees. They've worked hard to get where they are, and not just any degree. So we have Dr. Hale. So not just any degree, degrees that take a tremendous amount of work and focus. Okay, after working that hard, they come to Emporia. How could you come to Emporia? You have this dream, and you're in a dream. You have husband and wife working together, you know, and with that dream comes possibilities of thinking of growing older and maybe possibly retiring in this community and purchasing a nice home with the security of that job, okay? But what I've seen is that they've come here and they've been faced with a horrible episode, okay? That's not acceptable to me. As an Emporian, I don't want Emporia to be noticed for that kind of behavior. So I want to make a point about emotional pain and physical pain, because this is where I think people get confused. There is a big difference between emotional pain and physical pain. I want to ask you a question. Which one is worse? Emotional or physical? Can anyone answer that?
Emotional.
Emotional, yes. You can argue that both are extremely painful, but emotional pain is a horrible thing, okay? Physical pain is actually, you know, when something is physically damaged, you can see it. You can see the damage. If someone stabs someone, you can see the stab wound. Everyone in Emporia, my good community, would come running to the aid. I know they would. But when it's emotional, when it's an emotional stabbing, it's hard for people to see the damage that it does. Okay? And that's what I see here, is that people have worked hard to get where they were, walked into their office, walked into their area of work, and had the N word written in their office. I would question the motivation of the person who wrote that. Okay? Was it to create togetherness? I don't think so. Okay? So, one thing that I want to make sure that you understand is that emotional pain is just as bad as physical pain. All right? So when I'm going to go ahead and read from here. It says, when the spirit is hurt, it is not so apparent. Oftentimes the spirit can be killed and no one will notice. I argue that this is as real as physical damage. Okay? So the reason I say all this is, and this is only supposed to be like 5 minutes. But,
You're at 4.
okay. Well, the incident seems minor, right? I mean, I think that's the biggest issue. Look at the number of people that are here. Obviously, they're not recognizing it as a stab. They cannot see the emotional hurt that word causes to people. It has a long history behind it. People getting hung in trees, people getting burned, slavery, skinned alive, lots of other things. So things that you probably can't even imagine that have happened that are horrible. That's what that word carries with it. It's long history. Okay, so when you see it in your workplace that you've worked hard to accomplish, then it is damaging to your soul and your spirit. And it can, if you allow it to, shake your confidence in your environment. Okay? Let me go. there are three things that I want to point out right now that I show as evidence of emotional stabbings. I'm going to call them emotional stabbings. The first is that the incident happened at all. You walk in your office, there's the N-word, okay?